Alright, welcome back to another legendary video. So this one's not going to be a playthrough. Obviously the mat looks different, the cards look different, the sleeves are different. Because we are looking at legendary encounters and alien deck building game. So here's legendary encounters. This video is primarily to tell you, hey, I know how to play Marvel Legendary. How do I go on to Alien Legendary? That's what this is going to be about. I'm going to tell you what kind of the analog things are from the Marvel game into the Legendary, the Aliens game, and some of the differences in how things are played. The next video I want to do is going to be a playthrough for Alien, so I wanted to get you guys privy to it so that you kind of understand a little bit better on what we're doing. So let's just kind of jump into the similarities and differences. So like Marvel, you have everybody has a starter deck, and again, or let me kind of preface this. This is in the context of solo play, so I know there are things that are probably I'm not going to mention whatsoever that are related to multiplayer, like the drone deck and the drone cards. We're not doing those because they don't use them in solo play. So we are just talking about context of that. If there's anything I misspoke about or didn't mention that you know for sure is related to solo play, please comment below. I'm fairly confident I know what I'm talking about, but of course there's always a chance I don't. So anyway, sorry about that little tangent there. Like Marvel Legendary, you have a starter deck of 12 cards, but rather than having 8 recruit and 4 attack, you have 7 recruit and 5 attack. Also, what gets added to your starter deck is a roll card. Now the roll cards come from your avatar. Everybody will have an avatar. This is what you use to determine if you die or not, basically. This is how you determine if this character, this is the 9 on here says health, means if it gets to 0 because of strikes, I'll get into those in a bit, I die. I lose the game, game's over. And every single one comes with a specific roll card that gets added to your deck as a 13th card. So in this case, the priest, his card is violence is the answer. You would draw a card, and then this turn you may spend attack as if it were recruit. So that makes sense. There are a lot of roll cards, so we can change it up every single time. The 5 icon here, this like armor one, this is only relevant to multiplayer and a dead character's avatar. A dead person becomes an alien. Then that's where it becomes relevant. So it's not relevant to what we're doing here. So that's a little different. And also like Legendary Marvel Legendary, instead of shield officers, we have sergeants. Now sergeants are identical in that they're 3 costs to recruit. But these are all different in that there's 2 of every hero class. So we've got 2 green, 2 yellow, 2 red, 2 black, 2 blue. And they all have coordinate. You guys know what coordinate means if you've played the Marvel Legendary Homecoming set. It actually came from this if you didn't know. So that's the one difference there. And there are other keywords, of course, that are different. And when we do a playthrough, we'll go over what those are. The hero deck. So instead of having a hero deck, you have a Barracks Deck. The Barracks Deck is actually 4 heroes, or 4 characters rather than 3. You shuffle them up, you put them in the HQ, and you recruit them just the same. They function identically. There is no mechanism, as far as I'm aware, that puts cards on the bottom in the way that Scheme Twist will put a 6 or less hero on the bottom of the hero deck to kind of cycle through. So you kind of have to either recruit stuff or get stuff removed through another means by card effect. But those are there. They function identically as they do in Marvel. In terms of recruiting, attacking, it's all the same. The biggest kind of twist and interesting mechanic in this game that I really am enjoying is the objective and location. So the objective and location are kind of like the mastermind and the scheme. I don't know which one would necessarily be which because, sorry, that was like a weird thing. I don't know which one would necessarily be which because they kind of both serve that dual function. So in Marvel, we have a scheme that there are certain things that happen when Scheme Twists are played that we have to end up defeating the mastermind, which is the big bad guy, before that scheme can finish itself off and evil will win. In this case, we have objectives, and we have to complete the objectives before we are killed, and the location is something that kind of makes it harder for us to complete those objectives. So there are, I think, 7 locations or something, and there are 3 cards. There's 3 event hazards, and so each hazard that happens will be kind of a setback for the player. There's actually hard versions of every single one, too. They're 2 separate cards, so they're in this big, they're in the thing kind of sticking out. But they're, similar to Epic. They're harder versions, but each of the hazard cards will be in the Hive Deck, which would be like the equivalent to the Villain Deck. Now, this is things where things get really interesting because there are 3 objectives per playthrough, and each objective has its own mini mini deck. And these mini decks, the first objective has 9 cards associated with it. The second objective has 11 cards associated with it. And the third objective has 13 cards associated with it. All the decks have certain cards specific to the objective, as well as 2 event cards and a hazard card. The event cards are the things that happen on the objective. So you have to complete the objective, and in this case it says this objective is the Lost Colony, and it's kill 3 colonist hosts. Kill 3 colonist hosts. And then the event, so when I play an event card, is attach the event to a room it was revealed in. I'll talk about reveals in a minute. And then it costs twice as much to scan in a low visibility room. I'll talk about that in a minute. And it says, so when the objective's complete, you discard all the cards, event cards, and then you move on to the next objective. So they're all pretty different. They all kind of do different stuff. And that's really what a lot of fun is. The objectives are set up to be the movies, but you can mix and match them in any kind of way. So what else gets added to there before we kind of get on to that is that in solo play, there are these things called soldiers. They're kind of really strong enemies. And there's ones associated with the first deck, with the second deck, and the third deck. The stacks, I believe, are all the same, but then there's minor variations, like they're stronger, because the enemies in the first deck are the weakest, and then they go on and so forth, and they're very strong in the final deck. But this is just an extra enemy added to that to make the game a little harder. So rather than just shuffle all these cards, because you have to have the objectives come out in a specific order, you take each of these mini stacks, you shuffle them up, and they will be put together as the Hive deck, but they have to go in a specific order. So the 13 cards plus the soldier cards, so the 14 cards for the third objective will get shuffled up, put on the bottom of the Hive deck. The 11 plus 1 cards for the second objective will get put on top of that. And finally, the 9 plus 1 cards for the first objective will put on top of that. So then this becomes your Hive deck, which would be like, your villain deck. And they come out into the complex, which is like the city, face down. And as time goes on, they come out face down. Below here are these scan locations, they scan things under each of the different parts of the complex. You pay that much attack according to the spot. So the first spot, the ventilation shaft, is 4 attack to scan that location. The weapons locker and the power station are 3, and the med lab and airlock are 2 attack to show the location, to reveal what's in the location. And so when you pay that attack, you flip it over and you get something. In this case, it's an enemy. And the enemies, this one doesn't in particular, but the enemies will move along as cards come out of the Hive deck. If an enemy gets to the very end, regardless if it's face up or face down or not, it gets to the very end. In Marvel Legendary, the villain would escape. But there's not really an escape thing. So in this case, it comes to the combat zone. You can fight enemies here as long as they're revealed, and you can fight enemies here as long as they're revealed. But it's very important to kill them in the before they get to the combat zone, or kill them once they reach the combat zone, because enemies in the combat zone can strike you. So this is kind of like the analog of the wounds, except strikes do damage to you, which is where your life comes in play. And so if an enemy is still here when you're done, recruiting and fighting and stuff, you would take damage. This one doesn't have anything. Here's one. So you'll take damage, and this could sit here, and as you accumulate damage here, if you get to where your life is, you die. You can do stuff to get rid of them and all that stuff, and we'll talk about that when we actually do the playthrough. Once you defeat them, they go to a stack up here called the dead enemies, and oftentimes you're playing through the game, you get to the last objective. In this case, you have to kill the perfect organism, which is a final enemy, and it says it on the card. You get to the end of the game, and the Hive deck runs out. Oh, give me one sec here. Okay, sorry about that. I know there was no time change for you, but there was for me. Okay, anyway, so like I was saying, as you're trying to complete the final objective, the Hive deck could run out. So if the Hive deck runs out, you'll take all the dead enemies from the dead enemy stack, shuffle them up, put them back on the Hive deck, and continue to play through until you can defeat the final enemy. If the Hive deck runs out, then the game is over, and I don't really know what happens, because I've never got that far. I've died before. But there's something that happens. And then finally, there is the hatchery stack, and this is just like face huggers. If you've seen the movies, there'll be an enemy that comes out, and we'll deal with that stuff kind of when the game happens. So that's kind of the little TLDR of playing Aliens when you know how to play Marvel. It's pretty similar. It's pretty easy to get used to. I can't figure out if this game is easy or harder, because the very first game I played, I got destroyed. The next 3 I won, I think, fairly easily, and the next 3 I got destroyed again. So Still trying to figure out how hard it is. And I think the playthroughs are very long. So I may split it up into each objective, or I may do one big one. We'll try one big one first and see how it goes. But yeah, that's going to be the next video we do as a playthrough. It's not going to be this. I just grabbed random cards to show you. So it'll actually maybe be the first movie or something. But that's going to be it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think. If you've played Encounters, what you think of it. Yeah, that's going to be it, guys. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.